Hi there, Mike Bass from Talk Bass. Look me up at Mike Fred Bass here on YouTube or at Micah Fredericks on Facebook, MIKAFREDERICKS. Now, I'll talk about a couple things over a handful of videos. We'll talk about maybe some playing, some live playing, technique, sound, a couple different things. We'll cover a number of different topics. I'm going to start making videos a little more often now that I can. What we're talking about today is basically some things when you're playing live. I'm going to draw on just my own personal experiences. Your mileage may vary, your opinions may vary, your experiences may vary, but this has kind of been my thing. I've been lucky enough to play, travel, play, do a lot of big shows, a lot of little shows, and big clubs and big places. Gears that's been backlined, where I don't have my normal rig with me, or where I do have my normal rig with me, and a couple of things that I've discovered over the years. On the Detroit Bass Players Facebook page, Big Ive has done videos with trying to cover every Detroit bass player. He did one with me, did an interview with me, and I mentioned and I talked about compression. So I'm going to talk a little about compression and maybe some EQ. My personal choice when it comes to compression is this little beat up thing, Demeter Compulator. I've had this pedal for probably about, at least 15 years, if not longer. This was my American Express card. I pretty much never leave home or do a gig without it. It's pretty much always on. The irony is that I want to be able to show it to you, so it's not on right now. So I'm just plugged straight into my amplifier. Compression, this is what I've discovered. This to me is the best sounding compressor that in a pedal. Keeley makes a wonderful compressor. There's a number of different ones out there, and again, you'll have to find which one works best for you. This one works best for me. It's an optical compressor. It's an Optocompulator, again by Demeter. About $225 new now. I'm not so sure. Look up, you go to Demeter.com, I guess, or just look up Demeter amplification on your little Google search or Bing or something like that. I'm not so sure exactly what the price is. Like I said, I've had this thing. I can't remember what I paid for it, and I've had it forever. Nonetheless, compression. A lot of bass players don't understand it. A lot of guys have tried it out with the compressors built into their amplifiers and just don't like it. One of the best sounding onboard compressors I've ever heard, ironically, was with the Eden amplifier, because their compressor was designed by James Demeter from Demeter Amplification. So their compressor worked really nice. This is what I've discovered. It can work in large clubs, it can work in small clubs, but mainly larger rooms. When I mean larger rooms, I'm talking anywhere from 500 to 5,000. We're talking big rooms where you have a big, massive front of house. The bigger the room, the more important this is to me. And I even use this, like I said, live with little gigs. Here's how it was explained to me years ago when I was on the road with a sound man, where I had my rig, I was playing. The problem is when you're playing where you're relying on the front of house to support your sound and get you out there. Your sound is subjective. How you EQ it and how your bass particular sounds is completely subjective. But it has to fit inside of a mix somehow. You have to be able to be in the mix. And how many times have we went to a concert and we hear that kick drum's like boom, boom, right up front there. The bass is this big muddy wash that doesn't really do a whole lot. Well, I had a sound man, again, your opinion may vary on this, and your mileage may vary on this, come up to me at a gig, and he sat down on top of my rack, one of the older DBX, the over easy compressors, and plugged me into it. He said, here's what he's going to do. He said, I'm having problems really getting you up in the mix because the bass is an extremely wide dynamic range. It takes up a lot of space in the mix, a lot of EQ, a lot of sound. It produces a lot of energy. And this is how he explained it to me, because I was Mr. kind of an anti-compressor to a certain degree. I just didn't like them. Every time I tried one, it just didn't work, or it squashed it, just took out dynamics, did whatever. Basically doing what it's supposed to do. He put it to me like this. Bass drum is always pretty much, for the most part, right here. It will never change. Drummer, unless it's a ballad, he might play a little bit softer, but pretty much when you're playing a song, the drummer hits that kick drum, and it always stays here. So the sound guy knows once he gets that kick drum set in his mix, it's really not going to move too much up or down in its overall volume. Bass, on the other hand, being such a dynamic instrument and being able to reproduce such an extremely wide frequency, the response, will go all over the place. And it doesn't help matters much when a bass player is changing his EQ on different songs to get different sounds or whatever, or changing instruments completely. So what does the sound guy do? He either squashes the snot out of your sound at the front of house, unbeknownst to you, or he turns you down in the mix, or he doesn't really, he makes it more so it's just a rumble and there's some bass there, but it's nothing really completely audible. Well, Chris, and I can't remember the guy's last name, I just remember his first name, the sound guy that we had when we were on the road, comes up and explains it to me. He said, listen man, we're going to treat your bass like a kick drum. I'm going to compress your sound at you so you can hear it and you know what it's doing. And we're going to overcompress to the point where you might not like it too much. Because that way the signal that's coming from you to me stays right here. I don't have to do much to it. Because good input equals good output. And his philosophy was, yeah, I can compress you and squash your sound and do whatever I have to do and put you right here and get you, be able to bring you up so the dynamics of your sound do not change. He said, but I need you to do it so you can feel it and you can react to it and you can adjust how you play. Instead of just banging away, not knowing what's going on up front. He goes, it changes things. So the philosophy behind what he was saying to me with the compressor was, let's take the dynamic range of your bass and make it this much. Now that kind of goes against what we do because we like to have dynamics. We like to be able to play softer here and louder here. Compressor will not completely remove that. What a compressor will do, it will reduce that and kind of change that window to fit you in a little bit better. But also what it does is allows a sound guy to trust you more. It allows him to bring you up in the mix and control your energy or control your part of the mix and not have you move too much. That was key to me. It was a little bit of an epiphany when he told me that, and we tried it for a handful of gigs, and I ended up loving the end result because now I knew I was being heard in the mix. I knew whatever sound that I was giving him was being heard in the mix better. A lot of guys would completely disagree with me on this, but this is based on my experience, and it's been good. And when I've done it, it's been extremely helpful to sound guys that I've worked with in larger rooms. I've worked in rooms of 2,500, 3,500, 4,000, 5,000, and I've overcompressed my sound to the point of where I might not feel really comfortable with it, or it might be it feels too squashed to me. Sound guy loved it because my dynamics and my level relatively didn't change a whole lot, and he could bring me up in the mix. So that's my little opinion, a little rant on compression, and kind of how it could work to our benefit. Again, you need to find a compressor that works well for you, and you need to try it out like anything else on a gig, in a band situation. Any bass, any amp, any cabinet, any effects or anything else always sound great when you're sitting at the music store. They always sound great when you're sitting at home by yourself. You get them on a gig, things change, and all of a sudden you hate it without giving it a good chance. So what I would do would borrow a compressor, do something, buy one from Guitar Center, and if you don't like it, you have 30 days to return it, and check it out and give it a good shot. Especially if you're playing bigger rooms where you're relying on the front of house to control your sound. Another added benefit of doing this is what it does for your stage volume, which is something I also discovered, is since you've controlled your dynamics going into the front of your amp, out to the front of house, it also helps your amp on stage and those dynamics, which also can affect the front of house sound. So you're getting a number of different positive effects, if you will, by using a compressor. Again, use it judiciously. Use it where you think it sounds good, to where you can start hearing it chop off the weirdness. For fretless bass, I like it because it really adds a nice sustain. I actually overcompress, and no matter what I'm doing on fretless, a little bit. If I can have 5 compressors set up in front of me, switch on and off, each one labeled differently, then I probably would, but I don't. So there you go. That's just my little rant about compression and how I think it could really help and benefit us as bass players to get more of us out front in the mix and have us heard more. So there you go. Thanks.